welcome to the How to Adult with Travis Walker podcast. I'm your host, Travis Walker, and before we get into the show, I thought it would be good for you to get to know me a little bit better since I'll be guiding you through this journey of how to adult. I am a 24-year-old teacher in the Round Rock, Texas area. I'm married to the lovely and talented Amber Leigh Walker. We have two insane but incredibly cute dogs named Koa and Leo. The reason that I am starting this podcast is because I have found, as we have been navigating through college and early adulthood, we have just been guessing through adulthood and hoping for the best. That's no way to live a life. I'm going to bring in young adults that have already figured out a portion of adulthood so that we can all learn how to adult. See what I did there? That was pretty good. If you support this mission of mine, please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and if you're feeling wild, write a review after the episode. If you get into this and you're like, this good-looking kid did an amazing job, and I want him to keep going, I will leave my Venmo in the show notes for generous donations. If that's what you're thinking, I'm sure that's what you're thinking. With all that being said, let's get into today's show. Today we're starting a two-part series all about the art of the side hustle. Our first guest is an amazing young woman that I love and respect a whole lot. She started her side hustle about a year ago. She makes delicious treats for humans and dogs. She's smoking hot. My fantastic wife, Amber Leigh Walker. Let's jump into the show. All right. Welcome, Amber. Thank you so much for being here.
Anytime.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So first, let's start off. Tell me, what is your main gig? What do you do for real money?
I'm a teacher. I teach, this past year I taught 8th grade science. This year I'm going to be teaching 6th grade science and coaching cheer.
Nice. Well, thank you for doing that. That's a really hard job, and you're doing amazing things. So what is your side hustle? The episode today is all about side hustles. It's something that people struggle with, especially in their younger 20s. They know they want to make more money, but they don't necessarily know how to make more money. And a lot of people turn to side hustles, and I know you've turned to side hustles. So tell us, what is your side hustle?
So my side hustle is actually a baking business. I started it right when COVID hit. It hit in about March. And then with all of that extra time that I had on my hands, spending at home, I decided to open up my own baking business from home in May of 2020. So I've been doing that for about a year now. My degree is in nutrition, always had a really big passion for cooking and baking. So I figured what better way to exert that passion by opening my own baking business.
Nice. So, what is your main motivation when it comes to starting Food by Amber in this baking business that you created? What was your main motivation in starting it?
I would say my main motivation wasn't really the money. It was more so fulfilling that passion. I always had a dream of opening my own bakery. And while it is way more expensive to kind of rent a place and open my own physical baking business, I took COVID and the pandemic as a way to kind of fill that time by doing something that I love doing. So baking is a really big hobby of mine. I figure might as well turn that hobby into something that can make me happy and also make me a little bit of extra money.
Absolutely. So, you said the main purpose was not actually to make money, but I'm interested. I'm sure there was some type of money goal with starting a business. So, was there a number with trying to decide this is how much I'd like to make in addition to what I'm making as a teacher? Was there a number that you were going for?
I didn't really have a number in mind. My kind of the way that I thought about it was anything that I could make that would supplement my income that I'm currently making would be good for me. I think the only number that put in place was actually by you saying once I hit $1,000, I could have my very own KitchenAid mixer. So that's my new motivation, the new number in mind.
Yes, I know you've been striving after that, and I think that you're almost there. So with saying that any amount that you could make would have made you happy and makes you happy, would you say that you've achieved that? Or are you making the amount of money that you want to be making, or is there room for growth, or what's the status of the actual money making side of your side hustle?
That's a good question. I would say that there's always room for growth, always room for improvement. I mean, starting it in May, whenever I was at home and had nothing but time on my hands, it was really easy to get an order and make that order happen. During the school year, it's a lot harder to kind of make that happen with meetings, tutoring, all of the things that happen during the school day and also after school hours. And again, now being in the summer, it's really nice to get an order at the spur of the moment and be able to complete that order at the desired time. So I think my goal would be to be able to work more on that during the school year and kind of be more consistent with it.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. So even like in my experience, I've really struggled with the fear of getting started with a side hustle. Even starting this podcast, there's been a lot of fear. There's been a lot of procrastination because of that fear. So I'm interested because your side hustle has already started and you've been at this for over a year now. How did you get over that fear of getting started?
Yeah, for me, a lot of it wasn't really fear of getting started. It was more of fear of where it would go. But that fear has kind of died down by seeing how happy I make people with the things that I make for them and the joy that it brings me just because I love to bake and it's always been something that I've been really, really good at and I've always enjoyed doing it. Um, I grew up learning to bake from my parents, took classes in high school and college, and was also able to bake there. So, using my degree, using my science knowledge, and incorporating that into my love for baking. I think my biggest fear was just the first order, seeing how many would come in. And it did get really overwhelming at times, having multiple orders over the span of a few days or a week. But kind of just working through that, and I've just realized that it's not as scary as I've hyped it up to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's a great problem to have, right? Having too much orders, too much business is a great problem to figure out because you can always bring more people on or make me do dishes, but you can't always, create more business. That's a really good portion to the conversation. So sticking with that same kind of timeline of where we're at the beginning. We talked about the getting over the fear. What was something that you struggled with figuring out as you were developing and starting Food by Amber? What was something that was kind of difficult, kind of challenging to figure out at the beginning of creating this side hustle?
I would say the hardest part was and still is the financial aspect, putting together spreadsheets, making sure that you're calculating not just revenue, but also how much you're actually profiting, trying to figure out the price of single ingredients, like how much does 1 cup of flour cost? That was stuff that I never thought in my mind that I would be Googling. How much does 1 teaspoon of baking soda cost? How much does 1/4 teaspoon of salt cost? And then trying to figure out how much I am spending to make that certain amount of profit, whether or certain amount of good, whether it's how much does it cost for me to make a dozen cookies? How much does it cost for me to make a dozen pretzels? How much does it cost for me to make all of these goods that I'm selling so then I can figure out how much to price it at so then I can figure out what is fair, what is competitive with other people. Other people, I mean, I looked up HEB bakeries, Tiff's Treats, other places who I would say that I am competing with, making sure that my prices are competitive, but also making sure that they're fair and also making sure that I am profiting so I'm not losing money, obviously. I mean, sure, money is not my main goal, but profit is still a good goal to have whenever starting any sort of business or side hustle.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, the side hustle is a business, and you want to not lose money in what we're calling this side hustle. So that's definitely a big portion that I think a lot of people will, listening to this, will see that as you're planning your side hustle, you have to make sure that you are profiting. If you are not profiting, there's no point in doing the side hustle at all. The whole point of a side hustle is to make extra money. And if you're not making extra money, you need to figure out what's going on. What happened here? You probably did some bad math, and that's okay. I've done a lot of bad math, even trying to figure out how much time is left on this episode. I don't even know, because math is hard, and that's okay. And if you need to seek help, you need to find that help. With that being said, what kind of help have you needed with creating this side hustle? What kind of people have you spoken to? What kind of assistance have you needed in this process of creating your baking business?
Lots of assistance is always needed. Math is indeed very, very hard. I am lucky to have a dad who's an accountant. So I actually took accounting in high school. He helped me a lot through lots of tears that were shed because I am dumb when it comes to math and he is not. He's very smart when it comes to math. So I haven't necessarily sought his advice directly about Food by Amber that I believe. I mean, I could be remembering that incorrectly, but I do use a lot of the knowledge that I've received from him and from some of my accounting courses into the spreadsheet that I make, into the formulas that I have that help to calculate profit percentages. I try to make sure that my profit percentage on every order is above a certain amount. I've done a lot of research on what profit should be, research on how much to charge for delivery, even for delivery orders. Lots of research for sure. I've had a lot of help from you, of course, with dishes, because you can't always make all the things and then do all the dishes too. That's not as fun. It's more fun for me to make the things, not clean up my mess. I'd prefer to have someone else to just clean the mess for me. So thanks for doing that.
You're welcome.
But definitely a lot of research for the money and the finances and the accounting side of it, because there's lots of money that goes into everything, but especially when starting this baking business, I didn't really understand the depth of how much math and how much finances and how much accounting went in it. And I hated accounting in high school. So I'm kind of like kicking my high school self, saying like, oh, you're dumb. You did not know that you were going to use all this accounting, did you? And no, I did not. But just having a spreadsheet, keeping up with the spreadsheet, keeping myself accountable. I mean, I have to ask myself for help, if that makes sense. Setting reminders for myself. Hey, update that Food by Amber spreadsheet. You need to. You should probably do that.
Yeah, you just said a lot that we need to unpack. You said that you had to do a bunch of research on just like what should profit be, and that's a question that I think a lot of people probably have. If I'm creating a service, if I'm creating a product, what should our profit be?
That's a great question. I think everyone would have a different answer to that. And I don't remember exactly what my research said, but I think for typical profit, you need to be profiting more than what you're putting into it. So, I mean, anything above 0% would be good. But for me personally, I like to aim for a profit of over 50% just to make it worth it and actually to try to get some money back, because it's not just the cost of ingredients, it's also the cost of the packing materials and the cost of, whatever tins or containers I'm using, whatever Ziploc bags, if I'm using Ziploc bags, and different shipping materials. There's just tons of things that go into it. It's not just the ingredients, but also factoring in my time. How much time did this order take me to complete? One thing that I can think of immediately is any type of bread. I mean, I make sourdough pretzels a lot. Those types of things takes an hour to 2 hours to rise, and then there's a second rise, and then there's baking time, and then there's cooling time. And then I'm thinking, okay, I just spent 3-4 hours on this one order, and then kind of dividing that to say like, oh, I just made myself this amount of money per hour, and trying to put that into, is that fair? Is that fair for the amount of time and the amount of effort that I'm putting into this? So just making sure that my profits are above 50%. And a lot of that also went into the ingredients that I'm using. Does everything have to be name brand? Do I need to be spending $3 for a block of cream cheese when I could be spending 75 cents for a block of Hill Country Fair cream cheese? So just trying to see like what other alternatives there are that I could be using that would still produce the same product, but also just makes the financial aspect of that a little bit less detrimental.
Yeah, Absolutely, absolutely. So you talked about the profit as well, or you talked about the profit just now, but you also talked a little bit about how you do your documentation. What kind of things should people be keeping up with when they're doing their side hustle? What kind of things do they need to keep up with for whatever reason? What does your documentation look like, and why do you even do documentation? This is because this is just a side hustle. Does it really matter?
Right. So I'll address the reason why I document first. The main reason why I started doing documentation was just to see how much I could accomplish because I started this kind of as a gamble. I wasn't really sure how many orders I would get. I wasn't sure how much money I would make, but I knew that I wanted to try. So I've been able to keep up with it, and on my spreadsheets, I've had I think over 40 to 50 orders since starting. Quite a few of them have been pretty large orders. But I mainly keep up with it through Google Sheets. I have different columns. I have the customer's name, the date of the order, just so I can keep track, what they ordered specifically. And then that includes like plus shipping, plus whatever else is added on, plus delivery. And then the cost of ingredients, and that also includes the cost of packing materials and the cost of shipping, because I do pay for shipping, but then the customer, of course, would reimburse me for the shipping cost. And then I also have formulas factored in. So I have a formula that tells me just the dollar amount of profit. So that would be revenue minus the expenses or the cost of the ingredients, cost of the goods. And then I also have another column with another formula that tells me the percentage. So then I can look and see exactly what my profit percentage is. And I can see exactly if that's where I want to be or what I can do to modify that to maximize my profit.
Wow. So I mean, I guess your accountant dad is very proud of this spreadsheet. You got to make sure that he sees this. That's wonderful. I think documentation is a huge deal, especially if you just strike gold and you get like if your side hustle just extremely takes off, right? Uncle Sam is gonna want a piece of the pie per usual. So it's really good to document your at the very least your profit and your revenue and all that stuff because you don't want to get in trouble with Uncle Sam. Taking a little shift here, I'm going to ask about shifting. With your journey with Food by Amber, has there been any changes that you've had to make? Any type of shift, whether it's with your baking or with managing the business? What kind of changes have you had to deal with?
Lots of changes. I think some of the changes revolved around the ingredients that I use, trying to just maximize. I already mentioned this, but name brand versus cheaper alternatives that you're buying the exact same thing just for a cheaper price because you're not paying for that brand name. Another change I would say was shifting a lot and putting in more effort towards social media. I started off with just a Facebook page. My order form is just in a Google form. Um, but I shifted to using Instagram a lot more, which I think I'm a lot more comfortable using Instagram than Facebook. So, I've had a lot of changes there. Um, Adding more stories, adding highlights, different highlights for dog treats, for sweet treats, and then like savory goods as well. So then I have it all divided up so then people can easily access different things if they're looking for something specific. Trying to adapt and change just different things to accommodate what the consumers want. I've been working a lot with Happy Basset, and they had some of their customers that they serve ask for certain types of dog treats. So they've asked for training treats, so just smaller treats that are the same of what I make, just cut smaller. And then they also had customers suggest a treat recipe that includes blueberries because the antioxidants in blueberries can help. Since my treats don't have preservatives, they don't typically last as long at room temperature. I always recommend that they're stored in the refrigerator because they can last about 2 to 3 weeks in the refrigerator, but only about a week at room temperature on just a basic counter. So I started using blueberries in one of my dog treat recipes, and that recipe has really, really taken off. Our dogs love them, as you know, but lots of other people seem to like them as well. So just changing based off of financial needs. So changing the ingredients that are used, changing based off of consumer demands. supply and demand, right? If you want people to buy your good, you have to be accommodating what those people want and what those people need.
Nice, nice. That's really important. Being able to shift, being able to change is a big portion of business in general. If you're not willing to change, somebody else is going to take off and you're going to be left in the dust. I love your plug of Happy Bassett as well because they're going to be our second episode. So we're having a two-part series with Food by Amber being the first episode, and then the next episode is going to be the lovely couple that is leading Happy Bassett and doing amazing things. So make sure that you come and check out the second episode because it's going to be a really awesome one. They have a really awesome story, and they're going to give some really good insight. Jumping back to the Food by Amber story, though, you talked a little bit about outreach, which is really important, especially with finding more customers, finding more clients that you can serve. What you mentioned using Facebook and Instagram. What has your outreach looked like, though? How have you expanded the number of people that you are reaching with at least the content that you're putting on social media?
I think a big way that I do that is just following people. I mean, I am lucky enough to live in the vicinity that I grew up in. So, I mean, we live in Hutto. I was born and raised in Round Rock. I've been following lots of people that I've gone to elementary, middle, and high school with, trying to connect with those people, connecting with people that we went to college with, because I know that a lot of them still live in the Austin area, which is the area that I serve, dominantly. Reaching out to a lot of family. A lot of my shipping orders have been from close family and friends, so that has been really helpful. And then also people sharing my things. I mean, I've had the Walker family and the Peasley family have both been sharing some of my Food by Amber posts to get the word out there, and then word of mouth from the people who buy from me. So my own customers. I try to be really intentional about tagging them in my posts and tagging them in my stories, so then they're able to then share it on their stories and then get it out to their followers. So then I'm not only reaching my followers, but also the followers of my followers, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I think that's something that you do really well is it ordering with you is not just I'm getting cupcakes, I'm getting dog treats. It's an experience. Like, hey, this is me making your stuff and putting that on Instagram. Hey, this is your finished product. Hey, come pick it up because it's ready to go. So I love that it's not just an exchange of goods, but it's a whole experience, and you really make sure that your customer is getting what they want, which is some great advice for our listeners that are interested in creating a side hustle. You got to be different, right? Going to Tiff Streets to get cookies, you're just getting those Tiff's cookies. Think about the experience that you can give the people that are investing in your side hustle, because that's going to be what sets you apart. Um, I'm jumping back to the kind of the beginning of your story a little bit. Maybe it's something that you still face today, but what is a limiting belief that you've had to overcome with your journey with Food by Amber?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I would say just kind of making everyone know that, like, even though I am a side hustle, even though I'm pretty new, I am like a master of what I do. Like, I am good at what I do. I create good products, and it proves with the feedback that I get. Just like you said, I am really, really big on the experience, because not many big companies will send pictures throughout the entire process. I like to show the people, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is exactly where I'm at with your order. And then it also gets them excited about it. So seeing the pictures, they're like, oh, I'm drooling, or oh, this looks so good. So it gets them excited about that. And then they are able to share that with their friends and their family as well.
Nice, nice. So I just got two more questions for you. This is a question that I have for even myself for this podcast, and maybe you'll have some insight to this as well. But at what point in the side hustle journey should you start investing not only time and not only skill, but start investing money in your side hustle? How do you differentiate this is a side hustle and I should just be utilizing the what I have and then taking it to the next level and start investing money into your side hustle. Like I'm recording this right now on my gamer headset. When should I get my own microphone and get an actual headset for this podcast? I think that would be really helpful for people that are developing side hustles. When do you say?
I'm of the opinion that it's never too early to do that. I mean, I started putting money into my own business pretty early on. I mean, I would boost posts on Facebook and pay for ads on Facebook so that my post could reach more people. I haven't done that in a while, but that is something that I did pretty early on, back when we were still living with my parents. Um, but even now, I mean, I'm definitely willing to put more money into my business, whatever I can do, whether it's advertisements or just paying for fancier ingredients or whatever else. I mean, I've told you this. I think that you should buy a microphone for your podcast. Um, my opinion is that it's better to pay that money now than to look back and wonder, should I have done that? Would it have been better if I did? And like not live in that what if standpoint of what would have happened if I had done that, and just do it anyway.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. I think that's really good advice. So my last question before we move into the closing, we got some closing questions, but my last question of just the general interview is, what is next for Food by Amber?
Ooh, great question. Something that I've been thinking of like recently would be trying to partner with pet food stores, like that pet supermarket that's by our neighborhood. They had a little display case of homemade dog treats. Um, so I think it'd be really cool to like get some of my stuff in somewhere like that, getting some of my baked goods in other bakeries. I don't know if people do that with bakeries, but definitely with dog treats. I mean, that's one of my most popular orders, especially recently, has been dog treats for sure. Um, which I mean is easy when we have two cute little models of our own to help promote the dog treats. But I think it would be cool to like team up with other pet stores. I've tried reaching out to different animal shelters and other places like that so that I can try to get my name out there, but then also do another thing that I'm passionate about, which is helping all of the dogs in the world. But I think just in general, just pushing myself and continue to do more orders, especially with this upcoming school year, and pushing myself to do more orders, even if I just want to come home and lay down and relax after a long day of teaching the youths of the world. Instead, coming home and baking and then putting more time and more dedication into my business than I already am.
Nice, nice. That's an awesome thing. I think that you're doing an amazing job with Food by Amber of what I've witnessed. And so keeping on going with what you're doing. I think that in terms of side hustle, you really make this a hustle, and you are doing an extremely good job. I hope that the listeners have learned something from your experience. And let's move into the last closing questions. I have three questions for you. What is some advice for people that are wanting to start a side hustle? What is the number one thing? If I'm wanting to start a side hustle, I need to know it. What is that?
I would definitely stress the importance of doing research. Research is really, really helpful because chances are, if you've thought about doing it, other people have probably thought about doing it and have done it. You could learn from other people's successes, and more importantly, you could learn from other people's failures. But I think definitely doing your own research, especially on all of the financial aspects, because there's so many financial aspects that go into starting your own business, whether it's baking or starting a podcast. I mean, there's financial aspects with almost everything in life. So I'm definitely doing your research on that, doing research on how to use spreadsheets if you don't know how to do that. Like I said, I was lucky enough to have classes in school where I was taught how to use spreadsheets and different formulas to use for spreadsheets. I know not everyone had that same experience. So definitely just doing research so that you are as informed as possible and you have all of that knowledge that you need to get started. And then also just making sure that it's something that you're passionate about.
Wow, awesome! Thank you so much. So taking the Food by Amber out of the conversation for a second. As a young adult, you are a young adult, whether you like it or not. What is something that you are working on or trying to figure out as a young adult? It doesn't really have to be in relation to Food by Amber or your side hustle, but just in general in life. What are you trying to figure out right now?
I think balance, just balancing everything in your life. I mean, we just got married in March, so we've been married for, I think, almost 4 months now. Yeah, math is hard. March to July is 4 months. Yeah, that's right. Just balancing. I mean, balancing being married, balancing having two dogs, balancing both of our careers and all of our, side hustles, all the things we have going on the side. We are both ambitious in different ways, but we both have lots going on. So I think just balancing all of that, balancing, my personal life and mental health, balancing, all of the things that I deal with on a day to day basis.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm hoping that some of those will be future episodes that we can bring people on and talk about how people succeed at these things, because there has to be a young adult that it has figured something out, and that's the point of this podcast. The point of this podcast is to bring people on that have figured out an aspect of being a young adult, so that other young adults can apply some of this knowledge. And so, thank you for that. I hope that those are some of my future episodes on how to adult with Travis Walker. So, the last question: where can listeners learn more about Food by Amber and you?
Yes, so I have a Facebook page, Food by Amber. It's just food hyphen by Amber. And then my Instagram is at food underscore by Amber. That is, of course, my professional Instagram. My personal Instagram is at Amber Leigh Walker underscore. So several different ways. I share my Food by Amber stuff on both my professional and personal social media. So you can find me at any of those. But yeah, definitely my professional Instagram is at food underscore by Amber. Very proud of it. I wanted to start it for a very, very long time. I wanted to start an Instagram, and then one day Travis just made it. So we've been working on that together. It is definitely a team effort. But yeah, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy baking and then sharing what I bake with everyone. I've really gotten into a good habit of baking something and then taking a picture of it and posting it, whether it's on my story or making an actual post on my page. I started off with doing a lot of stories, but I'm getting more into the swing of making more and more posts. So you can find more and more posts of things that I make on my page. And then yeah, all of my contact information is on there. My order form, my Google form to place your orders is on both my Facebook and my Instagram. So place your orders. I'd be happy to bake you something.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Amber. I will make sure that all of those handles are in the podcast notes, the podcast details. I'm so glad that we could share this thing that I'm working on together. I'm glad that I could share this moment with you as my wife, and hopefully, our listeners will learn something from your experience with this side hustle. If you enjoyed this episode, y'all, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave a review. It really helps me get out there. And if you extremely like this content, I'll be sure to leave my Venmo if you are willing to give any donations to the cause, and keep making sure that other young adults can learn these skills and learn these ideas. From here, y'all, until next time, we are going to have another episode about side hustles. So make sure you subscribe and make sure that you don't miss that next episode.